We now had a very detailed look at those base features related to URLs, views, and templates, which is the meat of any website you're building with Django. But also very important is data. And at this point in the course, we're only using dummy data for our meetups, and we're not using any data that would really be connected across pages. It's not realistic, and it's going to change now. But first of all, what exactly is data there for? Actually, it turns out that there are three main categories of data we could differentiate. That would be temporary data, semi-persistent data, and persistent data. Though I will say that these are definitions I came up with. These are not official definitions, but if you think about the different pieces of data you're interacting with when building a website, you will probably be able to categorize that data with these categories here. Now, temporary data is data like the data a user entered into an input field. Or if you have a list of blog posts where users can highlight them, then it would be the fact that a user maybe clicked on some blog post. It's some data which matters at a specific moment, but which ultimately will be lost. If a user enters something into an input field, once that form is submitted, that data might be stored in a database, but the data in the input field will probably be reset, so the concrete value entered in the input field on the loaded page. So that's data which is used immediately and then typically lost thereafter. Such data is therefore typically stored in memory, which means in variables. If we handle the form submission, we first of all store the submitted data in some variable before we then maybe turn it into permanent, persistent data by storing it in a database. Now, we also got some data which I like to label as semi-persistent data, something like the user authentication status. If you log in, that of course is an important piece of information, and if you reload the browser, it should not be lost. But of course, at some point you might be logged out automatically, and if that login status is forgotten or lost somehow, it's not the end of the world because you can easily recreate it by logging in again. That's why such semi-persistent data should be stored in storages like cookies, local storage, or with help of a session. It's then persistent, but at some point it will be cleared, it could be cleared accidentally, and it can easily be restored. Of course, on most websites you also have persistent data which should not be lost. For example, the users which you stored in your database, or the products on an online shop, or the blog posts or the orders of an online shop. That's data which should definitely not be lost accidentally, and that's data which therefore has to be stored forever until you deliberately want to delete it, and hence you typically store it in a database. And that's the kind of data I want to focus on now. Because in our website, which we're building here, we got some meetups, and at the moment I only have that dummy meetups list here. Of course, that data should instead be coming from a database, and we as an owner of this website should also be able to add new meetups, which are then inserted into that database.